I dedicate my time and I relubricated all the bearings on this machine, all of them, every single one of them. Now, it's up to you what product you would wish to use. Now, I did use liquid bearings because of the fact that it is synthetic. I mean, but you can use whatever oil you wish. I do recommend synthetic. It doesn't have to be this brand. Now, I did lubricate the bearing that's in here. That would be a sleeve bearing. Now, what happened, there's quite a few parts here. It's just about 9 parts that you have to remove. Now, this is optional. You might, in fact, have already fixed your problem and you're okay with it. I mean, you might not have to do what I'm about to do, but I am gonna go ahead and do it because I want to take advantage that I'm in here. I mean, it's up to you. You might want to lubricate this sleeve bearing in here if you wish. I did because I was already in here. And actually, that's the reason that I created that problem. I created a communication between these two parts by accident. And when that other collector told me that he was having that problem, actually, he told me that he has sent that machine in to be repaired quite a few times. So it might be that whoever maintained that machine, they went ahead and that they tightened this nut right here a little bit too much. That might be the problem. So it would be awful for me to tell him, you know what, just send it in, have somebody work on it. I'm letting him know this is something you can do. It's not that complicated. Like I told you, this machine right now is in fact opened up like so, but you don't have to open it like that to fix this problem. All you have to do, like I said, is remove this plastic cover, which is very easy to do. It only has 2 plastic clips back here, and you need a 5.5 millimeter socket. So let me go ahead and do this right here. Now this is optional. If you wish to do this, go ahead and do it, but it's optional. I did do it because I was having a very small grinding noise. Now, I couldn't hear that noise when I was either fast forwarding, rewinding, or playing. I could only hear it when I was actually spinning this part by hand. It was about 10%. 10%. It was like from here to here, this area right here, you would have like a grinding sound from here to here. For example, I would I would mostly feel it. It was very hard to hear it, but I could feel it when I was spinning this. There was a kind of like a friction area, like so. It was like from here to there, like that much. There was like this friction going on in there. And after I passed that point, it was nice and smooth. And then when I got up to that point again, it was like that friction. I could feel that friction in there. So I know that friction is very bad on these old machines. They create wear and tear, unnecessary wear and tear. I mean, these machines are old enough as they are. I would hate to have even more wear on them. So what I did is I lubricated this inside bearing. I'm gonna go ahead and do this right now. Now, this is optional, like I told you. It might be that you already fixed this problem that you're having by just spinning this and you're ready, you're set, you're good to go. But I mean, if you wish, you can go ahead and lubricate this inside bearing. Let me go ahead and do that. All right. Now to be able to remove those parts, you have to spin this part that I had just adjusted a while ago. You remove that completely, all the way out. Now, I do recommend that you place these parts in order as you remove them, because the order does matter. You have to put these parts back in the exact order that you remove them. I actually made a modification in here. I actually changed that order in order to get more distance between these two parts. So the first part that you remove is that very tiny little nut right there. This is a 5/8 of an inch nut right here. So that's the first part that you remove. I'm gonna place it right here. Now the second part that you remove is this right here. This is what actually is sort of like a washer between that nut that we just removed. So this would be the second part that we remove. Like I said, what I'm doing right now, it's optional. You don't have to do this. You might have already fixed your machine, but this is optional. I did do it because, like I told you, I noticed that very slight grinding sound in here, which I wanted to remedy by doing this. Okay, so this is the third part that we remove. This is in fact the pickup spool right here. As this spins, this actually picks up the tape that you have either played or recorded on. When I removed these parts, I went ahead and I cleaned them with isopropyl alcohol. What I did is I cleaned that inside part very well with isopropyl alcohol with a very old standard Q-tip. I removed the old oil that was, because there was in fact oil in here, but it was very old. It was a very old, and I can tell you the truth. The lubrication technology that we have nowadays, that would be the synthetic oils, they work a lot better than the products that were used on this machine way back in 1977. So I would recommend, since you're in here, to remove that old oil. I'm not going to do it right now because I already did it. It's very easy to do. You just wet this Q-tip with your isopropyl alcohol and you place it in there. You kind of spin it and you will be able to remove that old oil in there. So I cleaned that inside part. That is a brass sleeve bearing in here, like so. So that's the third part that you remove. Now this is the fourth part that we remove. It is in fact a small spring. What this spring does, it tries to keep this part separated from the supply reel right here. Now I did modify this quite a bit. What I did is actually stretched it outward just a hair, just a tiny bit, to help it, just a little bit, like that. I stretched it out a bit. Okay, so that is the fourth part that you remove. Now this fifth part that you remove, let me kind of go ahead and zoom in a little bit better so you can see better in here. Okay, this is the fifth part that you remove. It's a tiny little, you can call this kind of like a cotter pin that goes through this bar. It's this very tiny little steel cotter pin. Try not to lose this. This is very small right here. So let me place it right here. See what I'm doing? I'm placing these parts in order as I'm removing them. Like I said, this is the first part, this is the second, this is the third, this is the fourth, and this is the fifth part. So far we have 5 parts removed. We're not done yet. There's still more to go. Like I said, this is optional to do. Okay, so this is the sixth part that you have to remove. It's this steel washer right here. Now, I don't know if you can tell right there. You can see kind of like a smaller, sort of like a wear and tear area. That was an area that used to have another washer. It's still in here. It's that washer that I removed. It's still in here. What I did is I changed the order in which these washers are in here. Okay, so this is the sixth part that you have to remove on this machine. Okay, now here's the tricky part. I mean, it might be tricky. There is in fact a C-clip in here holding the rest of these parts. Now, like I told you, I don't have that special tool. You might have it. I mean, you might be an expert on this format. And you might in fact do this for a living. So you might have that proper tool to remove that C-clip. I'm going to go ahead and remove it without that special tool. Okay. So what I use to remove that C-clip is your regular old pliers, just because of the fact that it has a nice straight edge right here, which I really wanted to use to push that C-clip out of the way. And I also used a pair of tweezers to hold that C-clip. You want to hold it in place because after you remove it, it's going to want to go ahead and fly out. And if that part flies, you're going to have a hard time finding it. It's pretty small and it does tend to fly out pretty far. So I would hold that part as you're removing it. Okay. So let me go ahead and remove that C-clip. Okay. What I did is I went ahead and I placed the flat side of my pliers right against the opened area of that C-clip. I'm going to go ahead and push that C-clip towards the front of the machine with my pliers. Like I said, this is optional. The reason I did this a while ago. I did this last week. Because last week I was actually lubricating all the bearings. Now this was in fact the last bearing that I worked on because it's so hard to get to. It's kind of hard to get to this bearing. All the rest of the bearings were very easy to get to. Even the drum bearing is very easy to get to. Okay, so let me remove this C-clip right here. I'm gonna hold it because I don't want it to go flying out of the way. It would be very hard to find that C-clip if it did, indeed it did fly out. Okay. Okay, so I removed that C-clip. Okay, let me go ahead and open this part. It did fly out. It might happen to you. Like I told you, I don't have the proper tools for this. I'm not a professional. So here it is. Here is, in fact, that C-clip that I was talking about. Right there. That's that C-clip. So this is the seventh part that you remove on this process. Like I told you, this is optional. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the seventh. That's the C-clip. Okay, so we're almost there. We still got about 3 more parts to go. Okay. So the next part. Now this part was not here before. I did place this part here because I noticed that I was getting a much better setup by placing this part right here. This is a black colored metal washer right here. I did place that part right there. Now it was not there before. This is sort of like a modification that I made. This gave me a much smoother movement inside of this. Might be a design flaw, but I was able to fix that flaw very easily by simply rearranging the order of these parts. Okay, right there. So far we have all of these parts removed. We still got 2 more to go. Not that much. I want to thank you for your patience here. This is a very involved process here, which I'm very happy to show you. Okay, so this next part is this very small black colored washer. Okay, place that right there, like so. These are oil. I did oil these parts up last week with synthetic oil, which is the best. It'll last the longest. Okay, so finally we are able to access that sleeve bearing in here. Now I did oil this last week. Okay. Now I placed, I mean, it's up to you how many drops you want to place in here. I would place 1 drop and then physically spin this by hand, like so. And then place another drop. I can't tell you how many drops I place in here. I probably place about 7 drops in here to get that sleeve bearing nice and smooth. Now, once I place that 7th drop in here, I got rid of that grinding sound that I was getting. I was getting like a grinding sound, like I told you. Now, I did lubricate this part as well. This is in fact the supply reel right here. Let me remove that. This is the last of the parts that I removed. Now I did clean this. I cleaned the inside of this very well with isopropyl alcohol. After I cleaned that, I went ahead and I lubricated this part. Okay, let me put this right here. So let me show you how many parts we have removed so far. Right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 parts so far. Like I told you, this is optional, but I went ahead and did it. So I was able to repair that grinding sound after I lubricated this sleeve bearing right here. It is actually a steel on brass mechanism here that they used. So after I lubricated this part right in here, about 7 drops, I went ahead and I lubricated the inside part of this supply reel right here. I went ahead and I placed it back in place like so. Now, after I placed that lubricant in here, this is very smooth, very nice. That really minimized the friction that was going on in here. Very smooth, very happy machine right here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and place these parts back in the order that we placed them in. So the next part will be this small little, like I told you, this is not the order that these parts used to be in. I did place them in this order because that gave me a much smoother movement. All right, so let me go ahead and place back this small washer here. Okay, like so, that's in there. And now the next one is this larger sized washer. Like I said, this was not in here in this particular order. I did place them in this order because it improved the movement on these parts quite a bit. Like so. Now the next part to put is that C channel, that C clip, like that. Now I'm gonna have to place this camera down to be able to do this. I need both hands to put this back in place. Okay, let me place this right here. Okay. Okay, let me try to push that back in place. Now, like I told you, I don't have the right tools for this. I don't do this for a living. I do this as a hobby. But hopefully I can help you with my videos. Or perhaps you're contemplating on buying such a machine and you want to really find out what it would take to maintain such a machine. It might be that after seeing this video, you said, okay, you know what, forget it. I'm not gonna buy that machine. It's way too involved. Forget it. I'm gonna skip that machine. I mean, that might be your case. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and place this C-clip back in place. And for example, I do recommend you use synthetic oil for quite a few reasons. Like I told you, it'll last the longest. And also, this is quite an involved process right here. I would hate to have to do this often. I don't plan to do what I'm doing right now very often. I'll probably only do this, I don't know, maybe, I mean, I really don't want to do this as often. So that's why I am in fact using synthetic oil, because it'll last the longest. I don't want to have to do this often since it's so involved. Okay, so that's in place, but I still have to move it over with my pliers. I'm going to move it towards the front of the machine. You'll be able to hear it clicking in place. There, it clicked in place. So nice to know that you can do such a procedure without having to buy overpriced tools. Okay, so that's in place. Now the next part that you put in here, like I told you, these parts, they were not in this order. I did place them in it's optional. I mean, if you wish, you can place them in this order, because I noticed that it really improved the movement in here. Okay, so the next part that you put in is this, like I said, this little tiny steel cotter pin. This goes all the way through this steel bar. All right, like so. Now you're gonna want to place that nice and centered for a reason. Okay. Oh yeah, I just got cut. Yeah, that's one more thing to consider on these machines. You might get corporal damage. I mean, if you work in auto mechanics, you'll know that's normal. It's part of the job. Okay. So the next part that we're gonna put in here is this spring. Like I told you, I did modify this just a bit. I did stretch it out just a bit to help it a little bit. So that goes in there. Like so. Okay. Now remember that I told you that you have to try to place that cotter pin nice and centered. The reason you want to place it nice and centered is because this pickup reel has a channel for it. I don't know if you can see that from this video right here. It has that channel for that cotter pin, like right there. Okay. This has like a part number. If that helps for you, you can see right there, TEK 98480. Okay. So when you place this down, you kind of want to try to place this like so, so it can grab that cotter pin that's in there. Let me try to. Okay, that went in there. Sometimes you kind of have to spin this just a bit till it falls in place. Right there, it fell in place. All right, we're almost done. We just got 2 more parts to go. Okay. Now the next part that you place in here is that steel washer right here. Now, originally, this steel washer, it's not a flat washer. It has sort of like a cup shape to it. Let me try to show you that. It sort of has like a cup shape to it. Okay. I almost need a third hand here. Okay. It has like a cup shape to it. What I did is I placed it backwards, like so. I did that for a few reasons. Okay. Place that on top. We're almost done. We just got 1 more part to go. That would be that very small nut right here. It's a 5.5 millimeter, which makes sense. This is in fact a Japanese machine. So I'm pretty sure they use the millimeter system, the metric system on this machine. Okay. Cool. So that's in there. So we're set. We were able to remove all of those 10 parts, lubricate that inside bearing, and we also changed the order of those parts because I noticed that I got a much better, smoother movement by changing the order of those parts. And right now I'm gonna go ahead, see, I can spin this bottom supply reel and it is not affecting this top pickup reel. They're both separated. Not much. It's a very tiny clearance. Let me see if you can hear that. It's a very tiny clearance in there. Okay. So let me go ahead and place a tape in here and try to fast forward and rewind. See if we still have the proper adjustment right here, because I might have to adjust this a bit more. So eject this. Place a tape in here. Okay. Go ahead and turn this on, and you have to always move this towards the right. It's a nuisance. Okay, so let's try to fast forward. All right, We got fast forwarding. That's good. Now let's try to rewind. This is the rewind right here. All right. Very fast movement right there. Let's stop that. So yeah, hopefully this video helped you get that problem where you cannot fast forward or rewind or play because of the fact that you have the improper gap between these two parts. It might be that you also have a dry sleeve bearing in here. That might also be your problem. Now, I did tackle those two problems at the same time since I was in here. I tackled that dry bearing that was causing that grinding, and I also tackled that problem, which technically I caused it. I caused that problem by accident. When I closed up these parts about a week ago, I over tightened this part, which caused these two parts to communicate with each other. All right. So hopefully this is a very simple adjustment that you are able to make. Now, that adjustment was very easy to make. It didn't take too long. Now, if you want to lubricate that sleeve bearing, that is going to take a little bit longer. Now, I did tell that collector that this was about a 1 hour repair. And yeah, it does make sense. I mean, this video is already 52 minutes long. And yeah, my guess was pretty good, about an hour. I mean, so thank you so much.